My college degree was in psych, and we did a lot of experimentation. So I had the scientific method down. And then as Michael and I are teaching certain spiritual classes, we're getting more into quantum physics and how quantum physics can explain. Quantum physics is helping to support spirituality, and spirituality is helping to support quantum physics. There's a relationship that is boggling, but it's I lost my train of thought.
That we can't possibly know what most people.
So thank you. So I am absolutely aware that in quantum science now is that the scientist and the intention of the scientist can skew the results of the experiment. Consciousness reacts to consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sitting here going, all these experiments that I ran for psych class, and I thought, oh, double-blind study, and I've got the scientific formula down and whatever. How much of that was influenced by my expectations of what the results would be?
Yeah, wow.
And so how do we know what's true and what's not true? That's kind of where it's very interesting. So anytime now that I read any kind of scientific paper that someone proves that this happened and someone else proves that that happens, I'm going, well, here's a group of people or scientists that may have had an expectation and they proved their expectation. And then there's another group, then the double-blind tests have to disqualify what was proven. I'm not throwing out all scientific experiment, but I'm very much aware that there's more of an interrelationship between the energy of the scientist and the experiment than was ever accounted for in earlier days.
Yeah.
So then, as you said, then we have to go deep within ourselves, but we have to trust our connection to our higher self, to our source, to our God, to the soul. And I believe that there are a significant number of people who either don't know they can do that or aren't doing it or are limiting their ability to access that kind of information.
Well, because for one thing, I don't know that it's valued.
Right.
I don't know that it's valued and supported in mainstream.
Right.
I don't know that it is. I know for me, one thing, based on that experience I had at a young age, that kind of woke me up to the awareness, soul awareness, that I've known kind of all along. I mean, I've, read books, I studied, all of that, lived a life. But I've always been aware that the importance of if I'm deciding what I think and feel and do based on what somebody else told me or something else that I've learned, it won't be my personal experience. And I've always been aware that I want to live my life, not the life that somebody else says I should be living and how I should be living it. And I'm still very much in that lane.
I love what you just said. I just got off of YouTube with a man that calls himself John of New for whatever reason, but he relays a personal story of where he was, he broke his back. And he was a young man when he did it, like 21, 22. I don't remember all the details, but anyway, young man. And the doctor said, you'll never walk again. You're going to be paralyzed. He wanted to be a stuntman. He said, give up your career. The doctors, you can't do this. You can't do anything physical. And he was laying in his hospital bed. And at 22, he realized that doctor's belief was influencing his life path. And it was the doctor's belief that he would be paralyzed and could never walk again and whatever. And he took total sovereignty over his own thoughts and then started moving his neck, and then started moving. Well, within a month, he was completely unparalyzed, and then within a year walking normally, and then lived an entire career of stuntman physical life. Because he said, I wasn't going to take somebody else's idea of what my life should be and take it as my own. How many of us do that? Because we look at an authority figure as having the answer to our lives.
Yeah. And then, how many of us also treat other people in that way?
Right. Right.
That
we're the expert. We know what's right for you. It worked for me, so it's going to work for you. Yeah.
So,
and that's the arrogance, I think, of that's when I use the term arrogance. I usually mean it where someone thinks they know better about me and my life than I myself know.
Well, yeah. And there's, a term that's being thrown around a lot nowadays is gaslighting. And pretty much that's, listening and taking in another person's experience and telling them and dismissing it. It's not real. That's
Absolutely.
not real. My reality is real. And that's not real. And it's so disempowering and so dismissing and so common.
Right.
So common.
Right.
It's
Yep.
So kind of going back to, relationships and
okay.
I mean, relationships are mirrors. They do, reflect a lot of things. And I know for me, being in that place of presence unfolding and allowing, that's not something that's easily understood. And my kids will joke about this with me, and friends have brought it to my attention as well. You can ask Mom or Irma a question, and you might get an answer in 5 minutes. You might get an answer in a couple days. You might get an answer in a week, or a couple months, or a year. And it is true, and this is why, because when somebody inquires, I don't have a kind of instant kickback. I have to take it and have it kind of go down to the heart center of me, and then I have to kind of sit with it and inquire into it, especially if it's an important question. And then, when I'm settled with that, then it will rise back up, and then I will reply. But that's not in the timing of how most people live.
Or 180 characters.
Yeah. So there was a real not feeling understood. And then eventually I got to a place where I understood I wasn't going to be understood.
Oh my goodness. So that was my realization yesterday, that I read something by Wayne Dyer, and it's he basically said, give up the need to be understood. Mm-hmm. If you need to be understood and you're not understood, you immediately slide into victim mode.
Exactly. For sure.
It's just something I didn't really think about, but in order for me to be safe, people had to agree with what I was doing. And in order for people to agree what I was doing when I was doing things they didn't understand, I had to keep explaining myself to them that this is why I'm doing it. This is what motivates me. This is the consequences. This is the ripple effect. This is how it's going to affect everybody ad nauseum, until I got to a point where somewhere along the way in the last couple of years, it's like, you know what? I don't need people to understand me. I need to understand why I'm doing something. I need to be able to sleep with myself at night. I need to be able to be in integrity with what I do. And the people who don't understand me, if they're going to fall away, they're going to fall away.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't, more power to it, But yeah.
Every time we set ourselves free, we set other people free.
Right.
And so to me, there is a true liberation in that.
I just wish I had come to these understandings a lot sooner. It would have avoided a lot of suffering. And you and I have talked about suffering, personal suffering and personal, never feeling enough, or not feeling safe or whatever. If I had really absorbed the essence of what I'm understanding now, it would have avoided a lot of those situations. And I believe the people that were helping me to understand that about myself would have fallen away a long time ago, and I wouldn't have needed to go through some painful experiences that I did.
Well, yeah, because people that are, causing harm because of their unawareness.
Right.
That's what it is.
That's what it is. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it really is having a clear awareness of oneself in their wholeness and having compassion even for people that are causing harm through their unawareness, but not feeding it and not engaging with it.
Right.
Because whether they're, aware of it or not, that unawareness is fed every time the other person or other people react to it. You're feeding that. And when you don't react and you hold yourself in a place of love and openness, they may not get it right away, and they may leave, and they probably will leave. But now you've added to something rather than feeding unawareness. You've added to awareness. You've increased awareness.